Hi, I'm Greg Filson, known from the BXG podcast. You can get that anywhere. I'm here to tell you about really great sunglasses from Ambassador Sunglasses. If you need any kind, any style, they really do a representation. Men or women, you'll find your perfect pair. Good prices, and with my promo code GTPHILS, all caps, you can get 50% off starting now. Yeah, please go ahead, get yourself a pair, get someone else a pair. They're a really good price. I can't recommend them highly enough. I've been wearing the 4 that I've got all the time, and I get compliments all the time. You will too. Ambassador Sunglasses, ambassador.com. Promo code GTPHILS.
Welcome to the BXG podcast, the podcast where pop culture and nerd culture meet at the nexus of the universe and are meldedly as seamlessly, that's not a word. That's not a word. Melded as seamlessly as the Netflix Marvel shows and the MCU. This is episode number 64. I am one of your hosts, Brenton Bestwick, alongside my co-host, canceled after one season, Greg Filson. How are you tonight, Greg?
I'm all right. It was good one season. Just didn't get the I was critically acclaimed, but I was not widely received by the public. So 97% user score, critic score 49. I'm doing all right. Got a bump on my head. Yeah. But I'll make it through.
Right.
I'm just happy I'm not concussed. How are you, Brenton?
Oh, I'm good, living that dinosaur life. And,
you don't use it, you'll lose it.
I'm probably gonna have to edit that out. Let's see. Housekeeping or whatever. BXG podcast publishes every Friday at 9 a.m. on Podbean, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and other podcast services around the globe, worldwide. Some would say, Mr. Worldwide, Mr.
Worldwides.
I don't know how that goes. Social media, facebook.com /BXG podcast, Instagram at BXG podcast, at GTFils, at Y2B, Twitter at BXG podcast, at GT Filson, at Y2B, YouTube channel, you search for it, BXG Podcast. Hawkeye review weekly, movie reviews will be up there. Next week will be Spider-Man. I think we have a great movie review tonight in this episode, as well as some of the other things, trailer reactions and so forth. I think we've got a good show tonight. I mean, I guess we do have to talk about. So the plan this month was to do Harry Potter as the extra episode, and our Harry Potter expert, David S. from Carn City, has gracefully bowed out of the running. So
put on his invisibility cloak.
Yeah, yes, he put on his invisibility cloak for the time being. So we'll probably, again, because I know we kicked it out of spring, but we're going to kick Harry Potter down the road a little bit more until Dave's freed up. But in lieu of that, we have not one, but 2 extra episodes that are going to be coming.
Right.
Possibly even 3. We'll see. So the first of those I think we talked about it last week. We'll be joined by Tony and Nick from the From My Mom's Garage podcast to do a 2021 movie wrap up. We're going to talk about some of the movies we really enjoyed, some of the ones we didn't enjoy so much, maybe look forward to 2022 with some of the different movies. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. The other one will be, I'm going to have a very special guest, a friend of mine who at one point was, I think he was a Twitch. I don't think he was a Twitch partner, but he was like a Twitch affiliate or something like that. And we're going to do a year in review of video games. So we'll have that here in the coming weeks as well. That'll be a lot of fun. Again, same thing. We're going to probably talk about the Game Awards, which are actually happening right now. Do like a year in review, maybe look forward to 2022, that sort of thing. Might have a music thing, still up in the air. We'll see.
Please send your favorite albums though to us and or to me. Any way social media you want to. I got a couple responses already, so that was exciting.
Yeah, I had somebody text me, so
it's good. And I've been listening to it. I mean, like it's this week I don't have a lot more time to listen to things, but I love it. I love the end of the year listening to music because I find some stuff that I just never knew existed, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. It's actually how I got into Casey Musgraves a couple of years ago. So
okay. So let's see. We've got a good show tonight. Hawkeye. We've got a movie review, The Challenge. We'll finish off Cowboy Bebop. Talk a little bit, follow up with some of the college football stuff, and then we have pop culture potpourri and media recommendations as always. But we start with Hawkeye, episode number 4. Kate brings Clint home to meet the family. Spend some time with Mom and Jack. After he leaves and promises to keep her safe, Kate's mom makes a mysterious phone call. Clint speaks to his wife about finding a tracker in the watch that was seen at the auction. Clint and Kate devise a plan to get his trick arrows back and talk to Kazi. And in Clint's conversation with Kazi, he references the big guy, which we are left to believe at this point that it is Kingpin, and tries to get Kazi to talk Maya out of her revenge hunt for Ronan. They track the Rolex to an apartment, and Kate goes after it, only to set off silent alarms due to the fact that it is Maya's apartment. She and Maya tussle while an unknown party attacks Clint on the rooftop adjacent. The brawl continues out onto the rooftop, and Clint attempts to get Kate out, but like a bad case of herpes, she keeps coming back. Maya flees, and the unknown assassin is revealed to be Yelena, and Clint impresses upon Kate just how real the situation has gotten in that someone has hired a Black Widow assassin. Hawkeye episode number 4, your thoughts? I
mean, getting Yelena aside, getting my girl Florence Pugh aside in this episode, and that was awesome. It was very quick, and it was completely spoiled to me. I was not even looking for anything this related, and someone who I didn't even know watched this show had posted this, and I got mad. So, yeah, that was.
I mean, we all knew she was coming, though.
We knew she was coming. I just didn't know it was this episode, and so, but the setup to all that was really cool. I said, every week it seems like each episode gets better, and this for me continued that trend. The partnership was getting better, even though now it's Clint saying like, hey, you got to get out of this, Kate. Like, this is a real deal. Like, now this is real deal stuff. So their relationship was getting better, but then, because of Clint's conversation with Kate's mom, Kate's mom, it forced him to be like, well, we got all these scrapes and bruises. Now things can actually become more than scrapes and bruises. And so he has to just basically kick Kate out of this, and she's not pleased. And it became very real. It had this almost, big brother, little sister kind of relationship, more than like father-daughter relationship at first. Now it becomes more of a father-daughter relationship. And I think the show is very real, which we've talked about before, because of the fact that Clint is very real. And, he's just accurate, but he's still just a person at the end of the day. And now it's come to this point where the threats become more than, he feels Kate can handle at this point. And maybe not in that necessarily that she can handle it. He doesn't want to be the reason that she dies. And I think that's really cool. I think there's this of all these shows so far, this one's the most emotional in the good and bad ways. I think for me, at least, and the reason why I say this is because these are two people. This isn't, this isn't a person that has superhuman powers and essentially, a robot that has feelings. And, not to downplay that, because we love that show too. We love WandaVision.
Yeah.
But this actually felt like there's an actual connection. Like I said, it's more of a father-daughter relationship now than it was at the beginning. And so I think it's very cool. It's a very emotional show. We only have 2 more episodes left, so I'll be interested to see which direction they go, because I love it. And at this point, with the way it's trending, like I said last week, and I'll continue this trend until I'm wrong, it's my favorite of these shows, as long as it does the trend that it gets better and it has an emotional grip. And it also just goes by very quickly too. Yeah. I think we had talked about Loki sometimes would drag a little, and this does not drag at all. I mean, I'm always, when it's over, I'm always like, wow, that was quick. And they're not short episodes, really.
No.
They just go by very quickly, because there's a lot of, when there's dialogue, it's snappy and it's funny just enough, but not too funny. It's not trying to be too funny like Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's in that perfect range of, like, in WandaVision had that too. Dialogue's just snappy and good enough without being too smart for the room.
Yeah, I think just to piggyback on some of the things that you said, the show does continue to get better with each episode. And I haven't felt the desire I need the next thing right now since WandaVision. Yeah. I got to the point with Falcon and the Winter Soldier that it was just like, okay, this is fine. I'm not necessarily like frothing at the mouth for the next episode. And there were times with Loki where I don't want to say dreading watching the next episode, because I don't think it was like that, but it was kind of in the sense of, I'm not excited about this at all. I do think that we're in the minority with that. I think with the Loki thing.
Oh, People Choice winner.
Yeah, I mean, it was all over the place. And it was, for us, I think it was not as, we don't hold the popular opinion, I would say, with Loki. But this show has, from day one, from the first episode, from the first 10 minutes, has just been nonstop. I need the next thing now.
Yeah.
But I do think, whereas, like, with Cowboy Bebop that we'll talk about later, I binge watched 10 episodes of that in 48 hours. I do like the weekly releases because it keeps you invested. It keeps you wanting more. You know what I mean? I've had a hard time with Cowboy Bebop doing the reviews because I watched it and left it in the rearview mirror. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Whereas with this, it's so much of, appointment viewing. I think that this show probably won't get enough credit for showing the downside of being an Avenger. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
We've talked about the physical toll that it's taken, the hearing aid, the aches and pains, that sort of thing. But I also think that it delves very heavily into the PTSD aspect that Clint's dealing with, especially when he had that moment towards the end of the episode where Kate's dangling and he's reaching for her. Like, that was killer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that I do think that the show is doing very well at striking the delicate balance between funny, action, giving you all the things that Marvel is known for giving you, but then also showing the human side of it. And I think that, like, because there's probably not going to be some of the really emotional moments like there were in WandaVision, I think that people will not look as favorably on this series. But I'm with you that right now it's minimum neck and neck between those two, and between Hawkeye and WandaVision. And I think that, if the last 2 episodes delivers on the promise, that it could pass it up. And I've said this before, I wonder how much of that is the fact that Clint is one of the original 6. And there is almost, 10 years, almost 10 years since Marvel's The Avengers, 2012.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean? Like we've had, and Clint showed up in 4, so it's been 10 years since we kind of got to know him, but you know, there's almost a nostalgia for that character. With that all being said, I think we have to make some predictions regarding, I think we're all on board with the big guy is Kingpin.
Yeah.
Especially given the news, and we'll talk about later, that Daredevil is returning to the MCU and the significance of Maya Echo and who that character's been brought up by. So I think that we're all on board with the fact that that's King. Well, the theory that is Kingpin. Who do you think the watch belongs to?
That I was like,
because he said the explanation was it's somebody who's been out of the game for a while, and if this watch gets found,
that was the thing. I was like, I was going through it, and I didn't want to like read on like the spoilers. I was afraid to read it because I didn't want to like spoil myself actually going forward.
Right.
And I honestly, and I'm just being honest, I couldn't think of who has been out of the game that maybe we've met. And if it's someone we haven't met, I was like, well, now I don't,
have any clue.
Yeah. I have no clue on this one, which I like. I love that because normally I feel like I have some sort of wavelength on it. And even if I'm wrong, I'd like how this time I was like, I don't know, because there's not a character that to me, it makes sense, but which is great. What do you think, Brenton?
It's tough because the watch was found in the rubble of the Avengers complex. So that points to it being someone who is an Avenger, or at least was an Avenger at some point. That had because my first thought was honestly probably Nick Fury. Because he's been out of it a little bit. He's, he did the Spider-Man thing. He's been, hit or miss after the fall of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Winter Soldier. He's kind of been a ghost. Then you learn, that maybe he's been a Skrull, whatever. But I don't think that that's it. And I can't think of anybody else who would rock a Rolex other than Tony Stark.
Right.
But I mean, he's not somebody that's been out of the game that's coming back.
Right. He's been out of the game because he's not coming back. Yeah. I thought that was
have
cool.
I have no other theory.
Right. And that's
Mephisto.
That's what I think also what is really good about this show is even when I and I did eventually look a little bit on the internet has no idea.
Right.
And I think that's what made this great is that this show seems the least predictable because it's not the space Avenger stuff where there's all those characters.
Right.
This is a storyline that a lot of people probably just never read Hawkeye to begin with, but also it's just not a storyline that people got into a lot, other than that Jeremy Renner is really good at this character and made him very likable.
Right.
I mean, there's a world out there where Jeremy Renner isn't Hawkeye and no one gives a crap, but Jeremy Renner just nails it. And that's what I think what made it my fear. And I have the same thing. Like you said, I have a fear, and I'm going to steal a line from CT is I have a fear that this show might get lost in the sauce because we're getting Spider-Man and then we're just getting everything out in space and we don't have anything space or in the multiverse.
Yeah.
And so we don't have anything grounded again for a while until we get, another Captain America movie. Yeah. And
She-Hulk series stuff, but no movies.
No movies. And so I feel like there, the series, that's great. But in the sense of that, now we're hitting Spider-Man and then we're getting, Doctor Strange and Thor. We're getting so many things that are just, and I don't mean this in a negative sense, but they're just bigger. And this show might get a little bit forgotten when other people start talking about things, but hopefully it doesn't. I hope it doesn't because I really have enjoyed it. And I think it's a good spot because it came in between the Eternals and Spider-Man too. Spider-Man as well.
Right. I think that this show is not going to garner the critical praise that WandaVision did. Because it's kind of a by the numbers Marvel thing, but I think that is actually exactly what it needed to be.
Yeah.
I think it is a perfect Marvel property, perfect Marvel story.
Yep.
What have you. I think that it is perfect for what Marvel, it's almost to me like it almost feels like a phase 1 or like a phase 2 even.
Yeah.
Like movie, storyline. Because there isn't, aliens and magic, basically. Right. You know what I mean? It's just ground and pound, like Captain America, like Iron Man, like Ant-Man, all that stuff. And so I think that, and this has been my fear moving forward after Loki, is they want to do so much and everything has to interconnect with everything. I think that they've, to an extent, lost what made some of that early stuff really special.
Right.
And that is grounded. It's not grounded in the same way that like the Nolan Batman movies were.
Well,
but
no.
It's grounded in the sense of there's not aliens and wizards.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I'm really excited moving forward. I did see somewhere, there wasn't any spoilers involved, but I did see somewhere that said that episode 5 will set the internet on fire. So looking forward to that. I do think it's probably going to be the reveal of Kingpin. That's my guess. But maybe they don't reveal him at all. That's the other thing, is that we've been wrong about just about everything since these series started.
When you say we, not just you and me, the
everybody,
internet.
Yes.
Everybody's been wrong.
Yeah. Mephisto, Doctor Strange, who else? War Machine was going to come to the rescue at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Loki, there wasn't really as much stuff to predict there. It was actually fairly predictable, but there's been so many fan theories. None of them have been right. I will give Marvel credit for that, keeping everybody on their toes for sure. Yeah.
They're good at it.
I'm looking forward. Definitely.
We'll move from one grounded superhero to another. The Pig review, the movie Pig, which is available to stream
on Hulu.
An exiled chef, the one and only Nicolas Cage turned truffle hunter, has his pig stolen by tweakers to help black market truffle dealers in Portland, Oregon. Along with his young companion, he tracks down his pig through the seedy underbelly of the Portland restaurant scene. So, Brenton, what did you think?
So, just reading our written summary of this film, it sounds preposterous.
Yes.
It sounds completely ridiculous. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is Nicolas Cage's best performance since he won an Oscar for Leaving Las Vegas.
Yeah. He's awesome in this movie.
This movie's excellent.
Yeah,
like it's really excellent. The premise is completely ridiculous, as you just read. He's a chef turned hermit truffle hunter who sells his truffles, or trades them, I suppose, and they're giving them to these 5-star restaurants in a very like shady kind of way.
Yes.
And this pig is supposed to be his like magic truffle finder, and it gets stolen by these meth heads and then given to somebody in the Portland, Oregon cooking scene. And then there's like a fight club involved. And there's a very weird, not weird, but like intense scene where he's completely chastising this restaurateur who wanted to open an Irish pub and instead opens like a French cuisine place that serves truffle stuff. It's really hard to talk about this movie because all the entire premise and all the plot points are so absurd.
Right.
But the performances are excellent. Nicolas Cage's performance is excellent.
Yeah.
I can't state that enough. I mean, like everybody knows my love. Everybody who's listened to this enough knows that I have like an irrational love for Nicolas Cage, right? I love Nicolas Cage. But that's almost in a lot of ways like a tongue-in-cheek sort of like, ha ha ha, Nicolas Cage, Ghost Rider, you know, the hair scene in Con Air and all that shit. But when you get down to it, this guy won an Oscar. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And he's been doing these like kind of weird sort of indie movies now for the last 10 years, as we talked about last episode, because he's going to finally be in another studio film. And when it comes down to it, you know what I mean? Like he's a good actor. Like he's a good actor. He can be. He can be.
He does. Like, here's the thing: is Nic Cage is exactly whatever he needs to be.
Right.
You know, so in this movie, he has to be a good actor. I mean, he's the lead in this movie. He's the only really recognizable person.
Right.
And he, you know, like you said, and you know, there's more to it. We found out that his wife has died, and we find out that he knows how to find truffles without this pig.
Right.
And really, like the pig is almost like, and not to sound, and not in like a weird sense or anything, but the pig is like a relationship that he had with his wife. Now he's just needs someone around, so he has this pig around because he says, like, I love that pig. Like that's why I have it around. I don't have it around to find truffles. I can look at the trees.
Yeah.
And I can find the truffles. And you know, and he has a couple speeches where you just like the speech he gave the guy with the Irish pub guy. I mean, it was intense, but it was like he's not yelling at anybody. He never goes, you know, he never gets too like intense about anything except when he finds out that, you know, spoiler, the pig is killed.
Right.
You know, the pig dies. And you know, when he has his friend and his friend's father is like this big is the restaurateur guy that actually has the pig stolen for him for these truffles. And you know, when he has that meeting with him where he makes the
food
meal, and you know, that scene is just so powerful because he's like, they're all just kind of waiting, and he's just like, eat it, like whatever. We don't need to break this down. We don't need to describe all this stuff. And it's like this elegant meal that he makes, but then you can see why he got out of it, and whether it was because his wife died or, you know, other things. The biggest thing I think from what I took away is he didn't like where the restaurant scene had gone. You're supposed to just make food to enjoy it. And that was it. It wasn't supposed to be this thing that it turned into in Portland and other places, as you know, but it also is, in the weirdest sense, it is a love story. And he doesn't have his wife around anymore. And so now his only connection to this wife is this pig. And it's just the way he gets beat up at this fight club, and he just looks like that while he goes into this restaurant that's like impossible to get into. It's such a great scene. He just, like you said, I mean, I don't think there's too many actors, as great as there are out there, that could have done this movie and sold it like he did.
Yeah, I really agree. Yeah, it's
a great movie. And there's another movie that is called First Cow, and I didn't like it as much as I enjoyed this. Janie had actually liked First Cow more than this, but if you like Pig, I think most people would probably like First Cow too. It's kind of that same style about the animal being an important character and things. But yeah, this is, and I hope this does is I hope a movie like this brings Nic Cage back, not into like him doing ridiculous things, but maybe back into like another big enough movie where if he really wants to go after an Oscar. Like this movie, he's not going to get nominated for. It's just too little of a movie. I'd love to.
It's gone nominated for. It's nominated for and won like at some like indie movie festivals and stuff like that. I think like the Detroit or Chicago Film Festival, something like that. This is also a new director, and that was one of the awards that it did bring home. Was for nominee, Best Actor, Detroit Film Critics Society, Gotham Award nominee for Independent Film, Hollywood Critics Association, Best Actor, Best Independent Film, Best First Feature from the director. A French Film Festival nominated best international movie, which is funny to think of. National Board of Review USA Best Director, Top 10 Independent Film, Washington D.C. Area Film Critics Association Award, nominee Best Actor Nicolas Cage. So like this is no joke. Like this movie, you know, like we said, despite the fact that the premise is absurd in a lot of ways, like this movie's no joke. It's I would consider it maybe the indie darling of the year. There was talk when it came to theaters that he could be nominated for an Oscar for this. I don't think he ultimately will, but maybe, because it's been kind of a weak year. There hasn't been as many releases.
I hope so.
I mean, probably not, I would say, but I do think that number one, this kind of puts him back on the map for people who see it. And number two is it's just a good movie. Alex Wolff plays his younger counterpart, Amir. He's probably most well known for playing one of the kids in the Jumanji movies before they go into the video game. And I think, you know, he did an admirable job. It's short too. It's only probably about like an hour and 25 minutes, thereabout. Hour and a half, somewhere in there. It's pretty short. Like we said, it's on Hulu. Watch this movie. Yeah. Like it's really good. It's not action packed.
It's an old school movie.
It is. It's an indie movie.
It's just actors acting. Yeah. And you know, and that's cool. It's nice to see movies like that.
Yeah, it is. I was really impressed with this. I was really happy that we watched it.
Yeah, me too.
Very much so. But
recommend.
Definitely recommend the whole way around. If you have Hulu, check out Pig, starring Nicolas Cage. We move from one living legend to another. The Challenge, episode 18. The night of elimination sees a woman and man voted in, and the game become a solo game again. Amanda is voted in. Instead of picking the only woman she could beat in Nani, she picks Tori in what turns out to be a physical elimination. We are treated to a scene that was reminiscent of the CT banana backpack as Tori took on the win. Emmanuel is voted back in after just defeating Logan. Same night, different episode. It calls down Devin for what turns out to be a puzzle challenge. Devin is able to make a surprising come from behind victory. The challengers are then informed that they will begin the final in the coming days. And as the final begins, it looks like it's CT's final to lose until the agents are again paired in two teams of four. The purple cell consists of Tori, Emmy, CT, and Devin. And the orange cell, aka the Bad News Bears, consists of Casey, Nani, Nelson, and Kyle.
It's almost too good to be true with the purple team.
Yeah.
With Tori, Emmy, CT, and Devin. So it's like after that happened, I got like, in the weirdest sense, I got like a little chill because I was like, this is kind of awesome. Like this, you know, when you find out it's Devin and CT initially, you're like, well, whoever they get doesn't matter because these two are like, you know, Devin showed his weakness as he's not good with physical, and he admits it, you know.
Yeah.
But
he's not in any kind of shape either, so that's a problem
right.
for a final.
But overall, this team is like stacked. And then, you know, you see the other team, you're like, boy, this other team, this is not great. But then again, you see these things, and like I said, maybe it's too good to be true. It feels like this is the purple teams, you know, until I like how TJ is like, oh, now you guys are together until I say you're not. And so I think that's fun. The way this season kind of ebbed and flowed, these last two episodes, the last week episode and then this penultimate episode here, have, I think, made up for kind of a slower season after we had so many people. I thought these last two episodes were really, really good. More of what the challenge is supposed to be. And that's because we got puzzles involved. And once puzzles really start making their appearance again, I get a little more excited because it's great to see the physical challenges. Don't get me wrong, but it is nice to see the mental game even things out a lot. And so this this episode was fun. CT still looks like an animal, and that's awesome, and I love it. And long live the king. Hopefully, I'm rooting for him again. I mean, this is just where I'm at with him.
I will say that in the men's side of things is that the puzzles do not even things out, because you have a guy like Nelson, who's a physical specimen, can run probably all day, do whatever, swim, all of the physical stuff, and then turn around and he struggles putting together a map of the world. They all struggled other than CT with putting together a map of the world. And that was rough. Shocking to me, although at the same time, not shocking, right? The puzzles. I
guess I was thinking more of Devin, because Devin can come back with a puzzle.
Yeah, it's an equalizer for him. But if it's a long run from one puzzle to the next thing, he's gonna be in trouble. Yeah. Because he's not going to solve any puzzle fast enough to outrun CT. He's just not going to. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the puzzles they're like a small equalizer for Devin. They probably put Nelson and Kyle further behind the 8-ball, and it's just another advantage for CT. Like at this point, and we've been saying it, there were 36 people to start, and we've been saying it since there were 36 people to start. He's the favorite until he's eliminated. He's a beast. He is the 90s Bulls. He is, the aughts Patriots. He is the 90s Yankees. He's all of those corollaries. He's just the favorite until he's not. He's the favorite until he retires. The only way that he will be knocked off the winner's pedestal, I fully believe this, is that if we get a season where both Wes and Bananas are both back. And that evens the playing field a little bit, because right now there's just nobody on his level. There's just not. No. I like Corey. I like Nelson. I like Kyle. I like Josh. None of those guys are even in the same zip code.
No. And maybe that's, we talked about a season where maybe like none of these guys are on it.
Yeah.
And like, that's a bummer for us as a viewer, but then it does offer the challenge of like somebody else can actually have a chance to win.
Because when was the last time that CT or Bananas wasn't the guy's winner?
It's been a while.
Yeah,
it's crazy to think like that. But
well, there was like the team thing. There was the one that was the War of the Worlds, but CT was on the team that won.
CT was
I'm gonna look up challenge winners.
On the ladies' side, Emmy keeps outperforming, I think, what people are thinking of her too. She's getting better and better. Yeah. Because she's solving puzzles a little quicker. She always talks about how she doesn't like puzzles, and then she's getting better at it too. And I think that's like her confidence. She just needed confidence to boost her up. And now she's really, she's kicking ass. And Nani and Casey are like really kind of falling off. I mean, Casey was last to finish, which was just, not a good sign for her going forward. Right. If, you have to worry about her injury proneness, and now she can't solve puzzles.
Yeah.
She's becoming more of a liability than she is helping teams. So
here is we'll just go back. We're on season 36. We'll go back to season 28. Because then there's like a nice run of okay, so season 36, or we're on season 37. I apologize. Season 36, Amber B and CT. Season 35 was Jenny and Bananas. 34, War of the Worlds 2 was CT, D, Jordan, and Rogan. War of the Worlds was Turbo, if you remember that season.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That was kind of a weird season.
That was a weird season.
I don't think Bananas was on that one, but I believe CT was, and he got eliminated early. 32 Final Reckoning was Ashley and Hunter, where Ashley stole the money. 31 was Kara. season 30 was Jordan and Camilla. 29, Invasion of the Champions, was CT and Ashley were the two winners. Rivals 3 was Bananas and Sarah. Battle of the Bloodline season 27 was Cara. 26, season 26, Battle of the Exes 2 was Jordan and Sarah Rice. 25 free agents was Bananas and Laurel. Rivals 2 was, on the guy side, was CT and Wes. 23 Battle of the Seasons was Team San Diego. That was Zach, Sam, Frank, and Ashley. 21 Rivals was, or I'm sorry, 22 Battle of the Exes, Johnny, Bananas, and Camilla. 21 Rivals, Bananas and Tyler Duckworth. And that's kind of, it goes back a little bit. He won, Bananas won in season 16, The Island. And after that, that's sort of where his kind of reign of terror started.
Right.
You had, and then Darrell had won at one point the 4 seasons that he was on in a row. That's going back into the kind of the older thing. So there were some seasons in there. Turbo, Ashley and Hunter, Cara. But I mean, most of these seasons over the last 10 years, minus a couple, were either Bananas or CT.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So to really, I guess we could throw Jordan in there too, as somebody who would potentially pose a problem to CT. But I wonder if after the fallout with him and Tori, if Jordan's just done.
It almost feels like that's where we're at with that.
Yeah. So we'll see. I will say in the next the next episode preview, they did say that, okay, whichever cell loses, the team now has to do an elimination against each other. And just the weird vibes that I got from the preview suggests to me that Tori's going to have to face Emmy and CT's going to have to face Devin. And I feel like in both cases, we know how that probably will shake out.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I have a problem. I texted you, like, Tori annoys me.
Yeah.
Because she plays the game, but when someone plays her, she gets mad. And that's, that aside, she is a beast. I mean, just watching her actually, because you didn't get to see a lot of her doing this until really the end of this season.
Yeah.
And I mean, she is definitely at, like, when we talk about Devin being at a low level of fitness, she's peak fitness for what she has to do. I mean, she looks like, she looks powerful. I mean, I would be scared to go up against Tori in a hall brawl at this point, because she is, her
that
traps.
Being said, though, remember the episode where they were doing kind of the modified hall brawl and she got lit up.
She did get lit up
twice.
Yeah.
Twice. So I'd probably take Casey in that one. I think I've been saying now for the past couple of weeks that I think the two winners are going to be CT and Casey. I'm going to stick with it.
I'm going to say, I'm going to go, and this is, because of the Ascension, I have no idea why I'm doing this. I think it's going to be CT and Emmy. I think it's just like this weird rookie winning the championship. When she was able to get through that puzzle quicker than expected and to join CT, and I thought that was awesome. So maybe it's just that rooting interest of rooting for Emmy and Uncle CT.
Did you watch her new music video?
Yeah.
It was rough.
It was real rough, but
yeah.
Good for her. Either way.
Yeah.
I've heard worse things in my life, so it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Watch the video for Alien if you haven't.
Yeah. Do it.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So we will move on and we will wrap up the.
Hey, do me a favor. Stall for a minute. I need to get a drink. Tell some jokes.
Okay. Tell some jokes. So why did the chicken cross the road? to get to the other side. Ha ha ha.
Keep the audience loose.
I didn't do anything good.
Did
I
you
wasn't
keep
ready
it
for
loose?
that. I should have had
Oh.
some jokes prepared.
Hey, you just never know.
Yeah,
You know,
I
expect the
should.
unexpected here on the challenge.
We will. It was like that's when TJ Lavin comes in, but we will move on to wrap up this first season of Cowboy Bebop. We'll do episodes 7 through 10. I'll read through the show. It is season 1, and it is only going to be season 1.
Yeah.
That's one thing that we learned. Episode 7, Galileo Hustle. A con woman from Faye's past reappears, offering Faye's real identity in exchange for passage to Santo City in a hurry. Julia considers her options. Episode 8, Sad Clown A Go-Go. Vicious liberates an assassin and contracts him to kill Spike Spiegel. Later, he puts his plan for the elders into motion. Episode 9, Blue Crow Waltz. Years earlier, Spike and Vicious meet Julia at Anna's club, but romantic entanglements and Vicious's ambitions soon cause trouble for all of them. And the series finale, Supernova Symphony. Faye and Jet track Spike to Anna's club, only learned that Vicious had kidnapped Jet's daughter so he can trade Spike's life for hers. And like I said, unfortunately for this, the series was canceled. Just wasn't received particularly well, and that happened. But so Brenton, I'll go to you on this. I think the overall thing is, you are definitely more of an expert on this. I thought the series was fine. And I had no qualms about it. I looked forward to every episode. But for you, as a true Cowboy Bebop, the original series, and now watching this, what were your impressions?
I mean, I really liked it. I thought it was a case, as I've often said, with a lot of the things that we talk about, it's a case of expectations. If you were looking for a one-to-one of the anime, you were going to be disappointed all along. I think that you had to be open to experiencing these stories in a different way. And I think that unfortunately, a lot of people just wanted a live action retread of what had already come before. I guess the other thing is the hard part is the story elements that were added in were the worst part of the show. So it's difficult to say, well, you need to appreciate it for what it is and not just expect a retread of the anime, but then at the same time say, well, the things that they added were the worst part. I thought that overall, the series was at its best when the episodes focused, or the scenes or the story movements focused on Jet, Spike, and Faye, and less so much on Vicious and Julia. I do think that this series probably would have lasted another season had they cut a lot of that content, especially, and we get into these episodes. Episode 9 is a complete original episode. There's very little from that episode that happened on screen in the anime. And I think that was the episode that a lot of people pointed to and said, we don't want this. And I would agree, because I didn't particularly care for that episode.
It was my least favorite episode of all 10.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be over.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I do think that that's the hard part. They took a chance by adding in some of these story elements for those two characters that weren't present, at least on screen in the original. And I think that hurt them. I think that given the opportunity, they could have, if they could do it all over again, they would spend less time on those characters and maybe more time on fleshing out each individual antagonist from each episode. Because I think that that's where the strength outside of the core 3 characters lied, was in the antagonists, some of the different ones. The first episode was really close to the episode that mirrors it from the anime, which is also the first episode of the anime. But a lot of times I didn't think that the characters were given much, or the antagonists were given much of an opportunity to shine through. But when they were able to do that, those episodes were the most special. And I think that a very good example of that was episode 8, Sad Clown and Go-Go, with the clown character who was like completely almost untouchable and presented a different look or a different challenge for Spike specifically. So I thought that, that those were the episodes that were the best. Supernova Symphony was kind of an allegory to the episode 5, Ballad of Fallen Angels from the anime. It's just that, they tried very hard to recreate the church scene one-to-one, but the element of Jet's daughter wasn't present. And I felt like it added stakes that weren't necessarily there, but I also kind of felt like it was unnecessary. And then I think the other thing that really turned a lot of people off was at the very end of episode 10, you finally get Ed, who's one of the core characters in the anime. And nobody's really sure really what Ed's gender is, but Ed came off as being very annoying in the 30 seconds that Ed was on screen. Whereas that's not necessarily the case in the anime. Ed is not that annoying. It's crazy how in such a short amount of time, the live action character made a very bad impression. And unfortunately, I think first impressions are everything. And between Ed, I would say what cost this series moving forward was a lot to do with the Vicious and Julia story arc that was kind of added in for context or for, to try to expand the universe a little bit. And the failure to sort of focus on what was really interesting about the episodes, which was the antagonists and the different ways that they kind of take them down. I'm disappointed that it won't get a second season. However, I don't know if Netflix does this, but I wouldn't be surprised if Prime or Hulu or one of these other streaming services picked it up.
Yeah,
it's a hugely popular IP.
Right.
And it did have in the first week, it was the most viewed series on Netflix, and it did have over 74 million streams. The popularity trailed off in subsequent weeks. But like I said, I think that I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it's going to be soon, but I wouldn't be surprised if, in a couple of years, maybe Prime or Hulu or even Paramount kind of came in and, picked this up off the garbage heap and tried to roll it out again.
Do you think, and when you say roll it out again, do you think when you say it that way too, do you mean just a rehash of doing this whole thing?
No, I think that they would. I think that they would start it. I think that the series was strong enough to warrant a second season, and it ended on a cliffhanger. So do that, but do it more properly.
Okay.
I think it would be difficult to just kind of erase this from canon, especially because I think the actors that portrayed the three main protagonists, Spike, John Cho, Mustafa Shakur as Jet, which I said in one of the episodes that he looked and sounded so much like Jet that if you close your eyes, you would have thought that it was one of the anime episodes. And then Faye, played by Danielle Pineda. The three of them were perfectly fine in their roles. It would just be, I guess it would be difficult to do a continuation of this, because then you do have to kind of look at the Vicious and the Julia characters and try to do something with them. And I do think that was the weakest part of the series. So maybe it is better to just kind of try it all over again. But I think that maybe we would be better suited to, if we want to do this live action thing, maybe. And they are doing this with like there's going to be a live action Gundam movie, and there's going to be like a Yu-Gi-Oh thing. And I think the other one was One Punch Man, maybe. And that's what Netflix specifically is looking at, doing those adaptations. But this was a hard ask.
Right.
Because this is a extremely beloved classic series.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they would have been better off choosing something in a similar vein that wasn't necessarily as ubiquitously popular as Cowboy Bebop, maybe something like Trigun or something like that. But I thought that it was good enough to warrant a second season. I am disappointed that it won't get one, but I also do kind of understand why the people that didn't like it, and which ultimately led to it being canceled.
Yeah, and I'll just end on my my final thought on this is I'll walk away with when Spike and Faye had any sort of back and forth. I think that was my favorite part of the show, and I wish I could have had like that, the one episode where it's mostly just those two. Yeah. I thought it was like a really just great episode. And I, like you said, I feel like when you have the main characters having their snappy back and forth, that was really good. And then having the antagonist, the clown, like you said, I mean, that was my favorite of those final four that we went over. I like that episode, but I like the back and forth. I thought the dialogue when that happened was really strong. And then when it wasn't with those three, the dialogue suffered too. And I didn't, and that's me having watched Cowboy Bebop just kind of here and there from the animated series and remembering some, but not remembering a lot of it. So that would be my takeaway on. I still liked it fine. I mean, I watched it all and I enjoyed it enough.
Yeah. We'll move on from that disappointing news to follow up on our college football discussion from last week. Excuse me. The Pitt Panthers did, in fact, claim the ACC crown with a strong victory over Wake Forest, and Greg's Michigan Wolverines became the first team to start the season unranked and make it to the college football playoff after defeating the Iowa Hawkeyes to claim the Big Ten title. Pitt will take on Michigan State May 30th in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, but star quarterback Kenny Pickett is unsure if he will play following the resignation of Coach Whipple, the offensive coordinator. Michigan will face SEC runner-up Georgia on New Year's Eve in the Capital One Orange Bowl for a chance to play either Alabama or Cincinnati in the national championship game. College football's most prestigious award, the Heisman Trophy, will be announced Saturday. The four finalists are Pitt quarterback Kenny Pickett, Michigan defensive end Aiden Hutchinson, Alabama quarterback Bryce Young, and Ohio State quarterback CJ Stroud.
So it'll be a bummer if Pickett doesn't play. I mean, I understand, I understand like part of his reasoning, but man, you're going to be like, people watch that game. I mean, that's for not a Big Six game. It's, people.
Well, that's a Big Six game.
Oh, it's a Big Six game. I'm sorry. Not a college football championship game. Sorry, it's a Big Six. Yeah. Not one of the two main bowls, for one of the six. People have time off. That's usually a fun game. It sounds weird, like a game where it's just kind of random, the teams that are in it a lot of times. It's there's no title at stake. That game always seems a little crazy. So I think those two teams would actually be kind of a good matchup for each other. And maybe if Pickett was in this game, we could see another fake slide attempt and get the internet. That was awesome, and I support it. That was cool. Yeah. People got mad because Pickett's cool, and that was the problem. You guys,
I think people got mad because that's going to lead to defensive penalties. Because if enough quarterbacks start doing a fake slide, then defenders are just going to start fucking rocking them.
And that's the thing. I think eventually what's going to happen is it's cool now, and somebody's going to do it and get laid out, and then no one will ever do it again. Right. I mean, that's just so it was awesome. Though it was a cool move to watch, and that was fun. That game was crazy. We thought it was just going to be 100-98, and then it slowed down. So it was a fun game. Got to feel good if you're a Pitt fan. I mean, that was awesome.
Feels great,
and those jerseys still rock. I still, every time they get better. They're like wine. Every time I see them, they get better.
Yeah.
And, for Michigan, for me, I don't even know. I was talking to someone today about it. And I was like, I don't even know. I don't know what to do with this. I don't even know how to react.
What's the opening line on that?
I believe they're plus 8.5.
That's a lot. That feels like a lot.
They're plus 9, I think, against Ohio State.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
I was texting you and Bob Sacramento about these games, and I understand Georgia's defense was amazing all season long, and then they went up against Alabama and they looked like crap. They looked like Swiss cheese, and Georgia's quarterback was not impressive to me. And maybe I'll put my foot in my mouth when this game actually gets played. It's the SEC, blah blah blah, all this stuff. But I mean, Michigan's gotten better every single game. Am I expecting a win? I don't know if I'm necessarily expecting a win, but it's crazy that I was 12 the last time Michigan was, I wasn't even 12. I was 11 the last time Michigan was in any sort of way of, and they won the national title. And now here we are, I'm 36 and they're in the playoff, and this is crazy. And everything that they went through, and to have Harbaugh in this position, and I love Harbaugh, thick and thin. I love Harbaugh. So it's fun. And I'm excited for these games. I'm excited to watch a lot of the bowl games are just fun. I know in our household, bowl games were just fun. Whether you care about the teams or not, it's just nice to have football on in the background at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing before we get to the Heisman race is I just want to point out some of the funny bowl games.
Okay.
There are some funny names for bowl games. As always. And I think these also get better every year. So I'm going to go like 3 or 4 that I just thought were really, really funny. So there's one called the Cricket Celebration Bowl. Now, I understand that cricket is a company, but it sounds like it's a celebration of crickets.
Of crickets, yeah.
It's the Cricket Celebration Bowl.
That's good.
So I love. I love that one. There's the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl. It's just
why.
It's like his late night show. Is Guillermo just going to be, the marshal of it? I'm looking forward to just seeing whatever chaos that'll be. I mean, the famous Idaho potato bowl just always makes me excited because I just like thinking it's a big bowl of potatoes. And the last one that I just thought was just insane sounding. And this is based purely on the fact that it just is. I've been to a venue that has this name, so it shouldn't sound as crazy, but it still sounds crazy to me. The San Diego County Credit Union Holiday Bowl. Yeah. And I've been to the San Diego County Credit Union Amphitheater, and it was not my favorite experience.
Right.
But I love just so many words put together, and there's still some other funny ones out there.
Well, I'll tell you what, I remember.
Gosh, I love it.
I can't remember who the Pitt team was. Because I remember they were decent, but not anything special that year. They were bowl eligible, whatever. And I asked my dad what bowl they were playing, and he said, I don't know, the insight.com up your ass bowl, and just walked away from me. Because that's, but that's one of those things is there's so many bowl games, and it's just whatever,
I mean, like I said, like these kids now, they can get all the gifts they get now, like it's totally kosher, and which is awesome. Yeah. I mean, but like I said, I just like having, when living out here, there's games going to be on at like 8 a.m.
Yeah.
I was like, throw my TV on, and I can just have, ESPN on all day, and just, if I just want to watch football for 20 minutes, it's kind of the way the only comparison to this is when it's the tournaments, conference tournaments in NCAA basketball. Obviously, the March Madness is the best time of the year, but that right before when you have the conference tournament, and you're just like, the MAC is on, and it's out here. It's 8:30, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just watch basketball.
And it's like Marshall and Akron,
right? And you're like, I guess I'll watch this, and that's what I love about this time of the year and that time of the year is you can just randomly watch something for just 10 or 15 minutes. Good background if you're wrapping gifts. and the like. But we'll move on to the Heisman real quick. I mean, if there's a clear cut what people think is going to be a winner, but I think we could just announce who maybe we think should win it. So the 4 finalists, like we said, Pickett, Hutchinson, Bryce Young, and Stroud. Bryce Young is the favorite to win this, Alabama's quarterback. Yeah. That's great. But if we're both going to be biased, I think, on what we think. I don't know if I would be biased. I think you and I may have the same pick of who we think should win it.
Yeah. I'll start backwards and say that after laying an egg against Michigan, Stroud shouldn't even be a finalist. He shouldn't even be in the conversation.
Well, he played a good game in that, but still they lost. And
yeah. They lost. Well, doesn't matter. Bryce Young for me would be third just because of it's Alabama. It's
right.
You know what I mean? There's
they just won the national championship.
Mac Jones is going to win Rookie of the Year, but how many Alabama quarterbacks amount to be nothing over the amount of time that Saban's been there? And it's because it's largely due to the talent that's around them.
Those wide receivers are crazy at both Ohio State, and I think that needs to be taken into consideration too, is the talent around both Young and Stroud.
I'll get to that momentarily. I would have Hutchinson number 2. And because if the Heisman is supposed to be the MVP of college football, there's been no player that's been more valuable to his team. Like whatever metric you want to use, wins above replacement, put a replacement level quarterback in to the Pitt offense. I mean, Kenny Pickett had a historically good season.
Yes.
For a team that, not ranked to begin the season. They were picked 5th or 4th in their division, not let alone ACC championship. They weren't even picked in the top 3 to finish in their division. Now, I will say that maybe an underrated thing is that, Jordan Addison is Pitt's top receiver, led the nation in touchdown catches for FBS and is a Biletnikoff finalist. So it's not like he was throwing it up to Larry Curly and Mo. I mean, they've got some potential tight ends that could be playing on Sundays, that sort of thing. So it's not like they were a bunch of slouches, but he broke the record. He broke all of Dan Marino's records.
This isn't some guy.
This is a historically good season. He broke all of Dan Marino's school records. He also set the single season touchdown passes for ACC history. That includes guys like Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, Jameis Winston, Phillip Rivers. The list goes on. More touchdowns in this one season than any of them. So I do think if the Heisman is really supposed to be the most valuable player, not the best player, the most valuable player in college football, then Kenny Pickett should be the winner.
And I 100% agree, even as a Michigan fan. I mean, the thing about Pickett is that he made me excited to watch Pitt football. Yeah. I mean, there's something and I've said
hard to do that.
I know he won't be the 1-1 pick in the draft. That just is not the way this draft is lined up. That's not going to happen. But as a Lions fan, if we can somehow figure out a way to get him mid first round, I would love it. He's got moxie. And there's something to be said about moxie. And I understand quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield and, there's other guys out there, Minshew, there's some moxie to them, and they're not necessarily the greatest quarterbacks in the world, but there's something cool about that. And, I love that. And there's players out there just, not everybody's gonna be Mac Jones, but also not everybody has Bill Belichick coaching them and turning that into a thing and having Nick Saban before that. So, there's a lot.
I'm going to be honest with you as a Panthers fan, where it looks like we're going to pick in that sort of 7 to 10 range. I'm really excited for the prospect of possibly getting Kenny Pickett, especially if we fire Matt Rule.
I've seen a draft where they do pick him. So I have seen a mock draft where they do pick him. My argument, for not Bryce Young is that, and I listen to podcasts and I listen to a couple of talk specifically about college football. And this isn't my opinion. These are people that are paid to watch the SEC. And they're like, Bryce Young is a good player. He's not even the best player on his team.
Right.
And that's outside linebacker Will Anderson Jr., who was an amazing player. He had 15 and a half sacks this year, led the nation, led the nation with 31 and a half tackles for loss. So you're taking his position and you're throwing him aside because this quarterback who essentially, and it sounds, I'm not trying to sound, like a dick, but it feels like you can just plug and play at Alabama. And we just discount this defensive player who's an absolute beast. And, it kind of got forgotten about, got lost too in this. And so that's the thing that kind of bums me out about this is that because we have to go flashy and have to go, the guys are lighting it up. And I can even say that with like Aiden Hutchinson, he had that huge game against Ohio State and he had a really good game against Iowa. But I feel like a lot of people probably didn't even know what he was until he did that against Ohio State. And there's these players that just consistently do things like Will does it Alabama, and nobody even is bringing him up, or not putting him in this. And so that's a bummer.
Defense isn't flashy,
But it is when you're popping people's heads off like he did. Sure. I mean, it's awesome to watch him play. I'm not an Alabama fan by any means, but watching his highlight reel, which I did yesterday, was awesome. And I love that anytime. I've always been more of a defensive guy. That's why I'm just a Michigan fan to begin with. I love defense and running the football. But yeah, I go Pickett, Hutchinson, Young, and Stroud. I mean, Stroud has the 3 best wide receivers in the country essentially on his team, and he can just toss it anywhere. But we will move on. Somehow our teams are still good and playing football. And this is crazy for both of us.
I'm not expecting anything next year. Like, this is one of those things. Like, Pitt's they're not Clemson. They're not
a perennial.
They're not a perennial team. So when you get this, you have to sit back and appreciate it.
I mean, I'm going to sit back and appreciate this. I think this is a team builder. I think this does things. I've seen some recruits sign at Michigan now that, a lot of people weren't necessarily expecting, and it'll be good. I'm always perennially thinking that all my teams are going to be terrible, that I continually root for since I was a kid. And it's nice. It's weird. It's a weird feeling. It has to be, what a lot of people experience when the Red Sox won in, 2004 and the Cubs. It's a weird feeling, but I like it.
Oh, fuck the Cubs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. I mean, I don't, whatever with them. But we'll move on to the Pop Culture Potpourri. Activision Blizzard staff initiate strike action. Central demand is that CEO Bobby Kotick will be replaced.
Yeah, good luck with that. He owns 25% of the company.
That doesn't seem likely, but
it's one of the. We talked about this. We had Ty on. I forget the episode to talk about some of the legal things that were going on with them. And the big thing with Bobby Kotick is that he allegedly knew of allegations of pretty serious sexual misconduct and essentially just kind of swept it under the rug. This all came out in a New York Times article, I don't know, maybe about a month ago or so. But they've initiated some strikes, and I believe the center of this one is Treyarch, who's one of the studios that develops Call of Duty, their QA team. I just kind of read the article real quick before we started and plugged it in there. But yeah, I mean, things aren't looking good and they need some wins. And the game awards are occurring right now. And it was said by the guy who puts the game awards together, Jeff Keighley, that outside of any nominations that they receive, they will not have any presence on the show. So things aren't looking good. I mean, there's still a hugely successful multi-billion-dollar company, but they need a couple wins here in the court of public opinion.
Certainly. Yeah, not helping there. Kevin Feige confirms Charlie Cox returning as Daredevil to the MCU.
Yeah. How soon do you think we'll see him? Hawkeye episode 5.
I was gonna say Hawkeye 6, but yeah. Yep.
A lot of rumors that he'll be in No Way Home. That rumor's been flying around for a while that he might show up as Peter Parker's lawyer in No Way Home. But I mean,
maybe it's his Rolex.
Maybe it's his Rolex. I don't know. He's a lawyer.
Yeah.
The man with no fear. Maybe I've never really liked Daredevil. I guess the question here is, will this continue the Netflix series or will they build their own canon?
I feel like they're going to build their own canon, but that's just based off of nothing. Just feels like that's what they'll do. Yeah. More Marvel news. We got our lots of Marvel news. In case you're new to the program, we talk about Marvel a lot and Star Wars. Right. We got our first look, and welcome if this is your first time. We got our first look at Kang the Conqueror in a stunt team shirt from Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. He appears to have a more traditional look than he did in Loki, sporting a purple helmet and bluish face. That's cool. I mean, it just, yeah. So
that wrapped filming recently. And I think this is like one of those things where the, set gear leaks. And that's kind of how we got our first indication that a certain character from the Sony Spider-Man universe would be likely making his way to the Marvel universe. But that's neither here nor
there. Right. Shang-Chi 2 officially greenlit at Marvel Studios.
Good for them.
Yeah, no
really
surprise.
Like
that movie's
movie.
Awesome. Yeah, I gotta rewatch it. So.
Yeah, it's out on Disney Plus now. It came on Disney Plus Day, which was like November 12th or whatever. So it's been like a month, but yeah, it's a good movie. It's a great kung fu movie that got down for me, brought down a few pegs when they made it a Marvel movie. Check our review from that. I don't remember the episode exactly, but it's on the YouTube channel as well. That was a long review discussion. I think it was like, it was like 45 minutes or something.
We both really liked it a lot. So I think that helps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Venom 3 also in early pre-production.
Yeah. Planning phases. This is really no surprise, I would say.
Yeah, no surprise. And do you think early pre-production is like, do you want to make this movie? And then the other guy's like, yeah, and that's it. And then they say we're in early pre-production.
Probably.
The Marvels release date revealed by Brie Larson, February 17th, 2023.
I would say of all the upcoming movies, of the slate of Marvel movies, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Thor, especially, Black Panther 2, the Marvels, there might be something else floating around in there. This is probably the one I'm looking forward to the least. But
to the least?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess out of that bunch. But I mean, I'll take Brie Larson any day of the week, twice on Tuesday. I mean, that's fine with me.
I liked Captain Marvel. Like the first time I saw Captain Marvel, I really liked it. And I thought it was a good movie. And then when we rewatched it for the Marvel in review that we did over the summer, I kind of like got a little bit as to why people don't necessarily like that character. I love Brie Larson. I think she's awesome.
Yeah, me too.
And I think she's perfectly fine for the role. I don't have any problems with her in that role. It's just the character is kind of a Mary Sue, and she's basically Marvel's Superman. And I hate Superman.
Right.
So, like, you know what I mean? The character, I mean, obviously Henry Cavill's awesome and he is Superman, but like the character of Superman kind of sucks and is boring. So when you have somebody that's all powerful that no one can stop, it's not super fun.
Yeah. I mean, what's funny is
out of it, you know,
what's funny about this movie, and this is just a quick note, is we have so many movies leading up till then.
Yeah.
That this movie could be so much different than what anyone's expecting to, which I think is fun. Last of Us casting update. Nick Offerman joins the cast. Give me all the bacon and eggs you have.
So I'm just gonna roll through the announced cast. Pedro Pascal as Joel, Bella Ramsey as Ellie, Gabrielle Luna as Tommy, Merle Dandridge as Marlene, which is interesting because that is who played the character in the game. Nico Parker as Sarah, Nick Offerman as Bill, Anna Torv as Tess, Murray Bartlett as Frank, who's a character that is new to the show, I believe, or it might be Bill's. Actually, that might be Bill's partner. Brad Leland as Mr. Adler, and Jeffrey Pierce as Perry. Some of these characters are new. I find it really interesting, or I think one of the things that's going to turn people off to the show is that, right or wrong, you know what I mean? I don't necessarily have a problem, but they're casting characters who in the game are very Caucasian as characters of Hispanic descent, with Joel, Tommy, who are brothers, both being played by Latino actors. Joel's daughter being played by what looks to be a biracial actress, young actress. I think that people are going to be turned off by that, fair or unfair, just because it's not going to be faithful. It's super faithful to the game, but I'm still excited for it. I think it's going to be excellent.
Oh, well, my thing was my counter would be maybe initially people will do that thing and then it'll be awesome.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, okay, whatever. This show's awesome. Because, by all accounts, and I trust I am not, maybe I'm going to play it over Christmas. I have time off. And I have the game. I just haven't played it, but we'll see. I'm sure I'll love it. Chinese space program finds a cubic hut on the dark side of the moon. It's where Pink Floyd lives, actually.
Yeah, indeed.
I mean, there had to be something there. Yeah.
It's probably a Transformer.
It probably is.
It's probably Megatron.
Oh, that'd be sick.
Yeah.
I wish. Yeah. No real fish stories this week. I went through the web. I couldn't find anything scary enough for the program.
Well, what the heck, man? There's a hut on the moon. Like, what the hell is scarier than that?
If there are some crazy fish in it.
Fair. that's fair. I mean, you got me.
Space fish.
Next week's program, space fish.
I don't know, man. Like we've got Omicron, the leader of the COVIDicons, and now there's freaking dwellings on the moon. I don't know what to make of anything anymore. Look, let's break this down statistically.
Okay.
Right? There's life out there. Like this is the turn. This is the turn that this is going to take. But here we are. Just statistical probability. There's other intelligent life in the universe. How arrogant do you have to be? Yeah. How arrogant do you have to be to think that we're the only ones? Come on.
Right. And to think that we're the most intelligent beings in the universe.
Clearly, we're not.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Tough take.
I think that it's highly likely that the hut on the moon was a scouting mission, and they were like, "Oh man, fuck these guys. Let's get out of here."
You see what they're doing down there?
Golly. We're the worst. We're the worst of our kind. It is. I mean, that's probably what it is. I'm going to chalk that. That's what it is. And that's my theory.
Yeah, you're probably
all
right.
Of these unidentified aerial phenomenon, that's what we're calling them now, is just scouting missions, and everybody going while they're killing each other, blowing each other up. What would they try to do to us? Let's just hightail it on out of here. They can't make it off this rock.
That's right.
Yeah. I call it like I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, you sure do.
That's how I see it.
It's like you think it's the Martian from Looney Tunes, and he's the one scouting. Yeah.
Marvin the Martian? Not Matt Damon.
No,
from the movie The Martian.
No.
Marvin I've never seen that.
Oh, it's great.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Which is better, that or Interstellar?
Interstellar is a better movie, but The Martian's still a really good movie.
Yeah. I don't know how much I like Matt Damon. All right, media recommendations.
We finished Only Murders in the Building season 1, and they're filming season 2. So that's exciting because that show is awesome. I can't recommend that enough. Steve Martin, Martin Short, Selena Gomez. It's really good. It is actually like a really cool show. I mean, if you like kind of suspenseful things and the humor, it's great. And then Christmas movies, it's the time of the year. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Watched it last night. Slaps every time. Never a disappointment. Same with Home Alone 1 and 2. And I can't remember if I've mentioned this or not, but I love the Peyton and Eli.
You've mentioned it not on the show, but we've talked about it.
Yeah, I love it. I say Succession's my favorite show on television. This might be my second favorite. I don't even care that there's football on the background. They had David Letterman on this week. And they have to cut him off with commercial breaks. That's what kind of makes this show like hilarious to me, is like, because it's commercials and it pays the bills. And it's like David Letterman's about ready to snap it, have a quick little little joke in there, and Peyton's like, sorry, Dave, we got to go to commercial break. And it like makes the show terrific. And if I know that you're not a fan of Joe Buck. If you can go back and watch the clip of him with Joe Buck with them, it's great. It's very high quality because he doesn't give a crap now. Since he's not calling that game specifically. So it's very funny. I can't if they're doing it, it's great. I would have, if it was Peyton and Eli just doing a college basketball game, I don't care. I literally don't care. Put them, They could just be watching a Bravo show. I think they're great. It's a great pairing. Obviously they're brothers, and they really play that big brother, little brother thing so well. And especially the thing where like, obviously Eli understands that Peyton is like a superior quarterback, but it makes fun of him constantly. It's crazy. And then I obviously recommend Pig. And I finally, having had to read books for 5th grade, I finished Casino Royale, Ian Fleming's first James Bond book. And it's just awesome. I mean, it's just those quick little pocket books readers, but it was a fun little side. And I plan on reading more of them over my Christmas break. What about you, Brenton?
I finished the Guardians of the Galaxy game. It is, as I said last week, it lacks being polished to a fine sheen, but it's really fun. The witty banter is what you would expect from Guardians, and the soundtrack is amazing. So like the premise of the game is you play as Star-Lord, right? And then you have just like quick commands for Gamora, Drax, Rocket, and Groot on the D-pad, where you can L1 on PlayStation, L1, hold their D-pad thing, and then hit a button and it does whatever their like special attack is, right? So that's pretty much the gameplay as far as like the combat goes. But there's a feature where like if you are low on health or whatever, you can huddle up, and like Star-Lord holds his Walkman up and everybody huddles up and he gives them like a pep talk, and then some 80s song plays. That's cool. While for the rest of your fight. And it's always something that is, it's not always appropriate for like the moment in the game, because sometimes it's like Wham, Wake Me Up Before You Go, and that's kind of off. But then there's other times where it's like the final countdown, and that's so on, you know what I mean?
That's
or
awesome.
Like White Wedding or whatever. So the soundtrack is amazing. There's a boombox on the Milano that you can play like what songs on it or whatever. It's really fun. It's not the best game by any stretch. If people are familiar with like Mass Effect or Dragon's Age, it kind of plays like that. But it was really fun. And I think the main thing for me was I got it on Black Friday sale, so I only paid $35 for it. So it was worth every penny for sure. I had a great time with the game. I would recommend anybody who likes that property play the game. And the other thing too is the characters don't look like they do in the movies because they couldn't get the rights to like Christopher Pratt, you know, Bradley Cooper, whatever. But they have like one of the collectibles through the game is different suits for each character, and one of the options is from the 2014 movie, so you can at least have them in their outfit from the movies.
That's cool.
Another really cool thing was one of the Drax suits, they give you the information of where that suit came from in which comic. So if it wasn't, for example, in the movie, then they show you, you know, this Drax suit was from Drax the Destroyer issue 2. This is the year, these were the writers. And I had no idea that professional wrestler CM Punk wrote some Drax books.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that, you know, kind of got that in. There's, there's appearances from characters that you would know from the Marvel universe. There's a little bit of Thanos. There's Adam Warlock. There's Cosmo the dog. Mantis is in there. Lady Hellbender, Fing Fang Foom. So it's really fun. I would strongly recommend it. I have gotten started on the Amazon Prime series Wheel of Time. I've been comically slowly making my way through those episodes because I tend to always watch them late at night and I always fall asleep like 20 minutes in. So it's taking me a long time to get through them. But we're planning on doing a season review with someone who's read some of those books. Whenever the end of the season rolls around, we'll have him on and kind of go from there. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I've been playing Crash Bandicoot 2 from the Insane trilogy, kind of working my way through it. I'm towards the end, but yeah. So that's pretty much it.
Cool.
For me. BXG podcast publishes every Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 a.m. Pacific, 4 a.m. Hawaiian.
Aloha.
On Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and other podcast services worldwide. You can catch us over on social media, Facebook.com/BXG Podcast, Instagram at BXG Podcast, at GT Phils, at Y2B, Twitter at BXG Podcast, at GT Filson, at Y2B, and on our YouTube channel. Just search for BXG Podcast. Man, we're really trying to hit a number of downloads by the end of the year, and I think it's possible, especially with the fact that we're going to have 2 extra episodes this month. But do tell your friends, do tell people who might be interested in the podcast, in our dry sense of humor, in talking about Marvel and Star Wars and movies and games and music and all the sorts of things that we talk about. And we're looking at let me take a peek here. Probably not next week, but the week of Christmas, I think we'll do like the BXG Awards.
Yes.
For different forms of media this year. I think last year we just made up our own awards, which was fun, but I think this year we'll take things a little bit more seriously. And then we'll also revisit our bold predictions that we made last year, which I feel like I won, but
I don't even remember now. I know that I said no team would repeat. I remember that was my big thing.
Yeah, but Tampa Bay did in hockey.
Yeah, that's what got me. Was the hockey one.
I can't remember many of the other ones. I know that I got several right.
That's good. I don't think I got any.
I'll go back to that episode and listen to them and write them down.
Oh, I thought it would be a good year for Razor commercials.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be a good year because we hadn't had any Razor intervention.
I don't know how you metric that out.
I don't know. Well, no, I'm wrong. There weren't any new Razor, the blades. I thought we'd have like a 9-blade Razor this year or something.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
We get bold on this show. We don't hold back. 9-blade razors.
Yeah. All right. Tell your friends, tell your families.
Tell your mothers
about the unmistakable essence of the BXG podcast. Take care, friends.
Wasabi Fenway Bowl.